What's up, boxing fans? This is Aztec 101 in the ring, and this is I'm kind of going over a video that I already did the other night. Canelo is a coward. I'm gonna try to make this quick, but based on the comments that I saw, the reaction, it kind of seems as though there's a disconnect, right? Um, sure, there's people that are strictly upset about the fact that they could either potentially have to wait or the fight will never happen between Canelo and Triple G, right? It's strictly boxing. So the anger comes from that. The antics, they don't want to see it, right? Um, makes sense. Makes sense. To some people, it's really about the honor of the WBC title and fighting at full 160. So some people, it's that, right? But to others, it's not that. They're just hiding behind that because that has been the motive to label him a coward for a long time. This has been, from the beginning. For some reason, him being promoted by Oscar De La Hoya, a Golden Boy, is what kind of upset people. Um, it is what it is. The fact that he was a fighter, that he's, you know, this was a mindset. This was a mindset, and honestly, I don't think I'm bullshitting. The mindset was, you know, Oscar De La Hoya is protecting Canelo because Canelo is um, Mexican. So he can get all the Mexican fans, right? I mean, it was simple reasoning that sure, it makes sense, but what's wrong with that, right? If the job of the promoter is to sell and market the fighter, and there is a market there locally for you to grab, and it's a market that fits the product that you have, why wouldn't you sell to them? But for some reason, these guys, for doing common sense shit, they're villainized, right? So Canelo, even though he's highly talented, was still portrayed as overhyped, a hype job, right? Um, and he passed a lot of tests. I mean, all the people that people said that he was ducking, he ended up fighting. He ended up fighting Trout, Lara, Angulo, Kirkland, Cotto. All these guys were 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 guys that he was ducking, right? And let's be honest right now. Let's be honest. Andre Ward had the Super Six, which everyone is super proud of. But if there was a Super Six in the super middleweight, I mean, in the super welterweight or junior middleweight division at 154, if there was a Super Six tournament at 154, who would be in it? It at that time, who would be in it? It would be Kirkland, Angulo, Lara, Trout, Cotto. Canelo pretty much won the Super Six tournament without having one, but he'll never get credit for anything like that, right? Right? But he's still a coward. Um, and it was obvious from the beginning that people do not like Oscar De La Hoya, right? Um, People don't like Oscar De La Hoya, and people don't like um, the fact that he has a niche. There's a niche. There's support there from Mexican fans. People don't like that. People don't like that, right? Shit. Even Golovkin got shit when he you know, said that he fights Mexican style, right? Right. I mean, for all I knew, nobody had a problem with it, but there were responses to where like, why is he why is he calling himself Mexican style, man? Why they're fucking flat footed and you know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't really that. It was mostly, them saying, why is he sucking up to the Mexican fans, As if showing respect to Mexican fans is wrong. Again, shit that doesn't make sense. So apparently a promoter cannot promote the product to the market, and a fighter cannot somehow graciously show thankfulness to the fans because that I don't know. To me, it just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Even Floyd shit. Even Floyd got shitted on when he showed respect to the Mexican fighters. Fuck. People were saying, "Oh, I think he does it too often." Fuck, man. You know. And then in the last video, I kind of touched on the whole Mexican pride thing and how it pisses people off, and it does. It does, and it showed that when Canelo wanted to fight during Cinco de Milo, people were kind of looking at him. It wasn't the fact that they didn't agree, right? Because you can make your point, right, and have a valid point, right? But regardless, it was the anger that it caused people. Like, how dare Canelo want to fight on a Mexican holiday? How dare he want to fight? Because it wasn't looked at it that way. It was looked at, how dare he want to fight on the same day that Floyd fights, right? That's Floyd's day. So it's just one of those things where it kind of travels all over the place. It's not just on him. I mean, shit. Canelo gets shitted on for Lara. People say that he lost that fight, and even though it was a close fight, and I think Canelo won. Some people are trying to over exaggerate and say that Lara schooled him. I was like, well, okay, all right, fine. But every time Canelo's mentioned, there's always that reminder. People use the Trout and Lara fight, even though to me, hands down, he beat Trout, but that's still an argument, and it's kept alive for a reason, right? And but you know what? That could be okay. If it's boxing, why isn't when Lara's record is presented, there's always the fight against Paul Williams that's being brought up, but never the fight against Molina. Carlos Molina. Carlos Molina, one of the best junior middleweights in the division that was rarely talked about, that was robbed against Lara. No one says shit. And then wasn't pushed because he was boring, and no one said shit. Right? Someone calls Lara boring, but you jump to his defense. Then the fans too. Fans were always a villain, always a villain. I mean, if you look at the way people remember Floyd and a lot of the hate that he got, Mexicans will take a lot of the burden for that, and you can say you're right, but then I can also say that the majority of Floyd's fans were Mexican. Just because of the landscape of the fan base in boxing, especially here in the States. Because of the landscape, I mean, you can't say that he got a lot of hate from Mexicans. Of course, he did, and he got a lot of love from them too. Most of his fans, I can guarantee you, are Mexican. Most of his fans, go fan for fan, you'll probably have more Mexican fans than he has haters. And the crazy part about it is the fans will always be labeled the villain in history. the Mexican fans wanted him to lose, right? And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't think that's really what the landscape was, right? I think some people wanted him to lose, some people wanted him to win. But I think what a lot of people wanted was to have kind of a villain for Floyd, and the villain for Floyd was Mexican fan base. Eventually, that kind of trickled in with the Pacquiao fan base, right? And then it overlapped and fucking turned into something else. But um, Leo Santa Cruz, Abner Mars, these guys had a great fight. And Leo Santa Cruz is the kind of guy that, he deserves criticism. He should fight Rigo, right? But the sad part is that his career is kind of shot before it starts, because even if he doesn't fight Rigo, there's a lot of fights that he can have. But that would just always be something that hangs over people's head. Automatic disqualifier. I mean, he was probably disqualified to begin with, to be honest. But I'm not reaching here. I honestly do feel that there's not a lot of people that like the fucking Mexican fighters and fan base and the whole thing. It's just fucking a whole. There's a lot more Donald Trumps out there than you think. But whatever. This is Aztec 101 in the ring, and I'm out.